What is up? What is up? This is Cuzzo's life story, and this is the first ever live convict reunion. My first guest, Michael Smith, aka Smitty. Smitty, what's up, bro?
Hey, bro, man, it's nice seeing you again, man. Getting to hang out and talk to you a little bit.
Yeah, bro, for real. It's been a long, long time, man.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Last time I saw you, man, was what? Be 2012.
Mm, yeah, yep,
Yeah,
because that was when I got kicked out.
yeah. I was just leaving out of there on post release. They had denied me parole, but they gave me the pre release test, so I did my hit down at the renewal center. I got to do my hit at the halfway house. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. You were just getting ready to get sent to Frackville.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bro, I I vividly remember the first time ever like we spoke.
Yeah.
Cause I mean, I'm doing my life story. I've talked
Right.
about you a few times in the story parts, but
You hung out a lot, bro.
you were actually the second person I met from our county.
Oh yeah.
And the first one, you know this whole story, and you know who this fool is. Uh, the dude, JT.
Oh yeah. Snack pack.
Snack. Yes, that's what we called him, Snack
Yeah,
Pack.
yeah,
Bro, I don't know if you remember this, but he stole my family's friend's paperwork when they got in that indictment, and he was trying to tell everyone that he was in prison for that indictment. But really, he was in there because he accidentally shot that little girl.
Oh wow. Yeah, I had no idea.
Yeah, bro. That's what like started everything.
Yeah, I didn't care for that kid when we were in
Y-
there.
Yeah, dude. Well, when I first met you, okay,
Yeah,
someone came up to me and was like, "Yo, my boy, he's from your county. He's from your area."
yeah,
And I went out to yard, and you were sitting on your bench.
yeah.
Because first I was with Callie and damn, what was the other Crip's name? He
Oh,
was Squeak.
okay. Yeah,
Squeak on IB.
yeah,
So yeah, I get pointed out where you're at. Bro, you just chilling on the bench like that. And man, we just hit it off right away, and you were so fucking cool, man. You were cool to me. Like, you didn't young boy me.
yeah. Right. Well, you know what I mean. Like, I was young once myself. You know what I mean. And yeah, I didn't like it. You know when people did that kind of stuff to me. You know what I mean.
Yeah.
He was a grown man. He was in prison. You know what I mean. They let you in.
Yeah, they let you in. Bro, like, how much time did you have in when I met
Uh,
you?
I that stretch there, I did.
That was 2010. I got
Okay.
there.
I had been there at that time since 2000, January 2004, but I was there before, and I was out less than a year. I was there 3 years the first time. Then I came
Okay.
back less than a year later, and I stayed, till I was there from 2000 to 2012. Then I had like a little break in the middle there. Well, after the
You had a
first,
little furlough.
yeah, I had a commercial.
A little quick commercial break.
Yeah, yeah.
Man, so like let me ask you this. What do you remember when you first met me?
Ah, man. When I first met you, I remember like you were Fink Silly, Jimmy Fink. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I
That was
remember
my first yep, that was my
I remember
first
you coming
Celly.
in and you were young, man. I was like, damn, bro. I said, how old is your silly? Like he just turned 18 or something. You know what I mean? He was,
19,
he said,
19.
that's what he said. He's like about 19 or something. I said, oh, yeah. I said, he's from down your way. He said, no, he's from your way. I said, really? I said, where? He's like, Alaquippa. I said, get out. I said, really? I'm from New Brighton. I said, that's like right near each other. I mean, that's really
Yep,
close.
Aliquippa, New Brighton.
Yeah. So that's what I said. I like to meet that kid. You know what I mean? See, because like for real, most of the time, I try to steer away from Beaver County dudes. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I feel you, bro.
A lot of them they got shit with them. You know what I mean? And like I don't know, they don't know how to bid, they don't know how to do time. And so, but like I've met a few. Not to say all of them are like that, but no. But I've had some bad experiences in the past, so
Yeah.
I kind of like watch. You know what I mean? Who I try to associate myself with.
Yeah.
Because you are who you hang out with.
Yep. Well, I mean, you remember the situation with Mason.
Yeah, yeah,
That's all he did is tell everyone, like, instead of introducing himself
yeah,
and being him, it's always, yeah, I'm Cuzzo's boy.
yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
he got in a lot of shit. And then, I mean, he's the one that, got me jammed up.
Oh yeah, because of that girl.
Yep, when I caught the case for smuggling the weed into the prison.
I didn't know for a fact, but I assumed as much.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he was mad because he liked that girl.
Yeah, dude. Do you remember what Nick Napoli did? And free Nick, man. Free ice pick Nick.
That's my dude, man.
That's Nick Napoli. I know a lot of you guys used to watch the History Channel, and they had Gangland on. Gangland. But his family's MC club, Breed.
Yeah,
For those of you that know, but yeah, man, I remember he had him up on the fence and was like, "You're taking that girl off your visitors list."
man. Nick was something else, man. He was gonna stab this dude one time for bumping into him in the chow hall, right?
Dude.
And I'm like, oh man, you know what I mean? I'm like, so I'm trying to talk to him, and like, I'm the voice of reason right here, and I'm thinking like, like I'm a horrible person to be the voice of reason. You know what I mean? I'm trying to talk to this dude. I'm like, hey Nick, man, I said, you know what I mean? You think I might be a little harsh, man? Like, stabbing him before they're bumping into you. Think you might just want to fight him instead? He's like, you think so, Smitty? Think fighting him is better? I said, yeah, Nick, I think that's probably better. He's like, okay, let's go fight him.
Dude, that's how Nick was. Dude,
Yeah.
please tell me you remember this. When Nick stabbed the shit out of his uncle at the poker table.
No. I remember he had something like that, but I don't remember that happening.
Bro, well, it's not like he stabbed him multiple times. So you remember what was his it was either his cousin or his uncle. He had the dumbass shaved head and just had the hair.
Yeah. I didn't know that's what you're talking about. Like, I remember he did that. That dude Jeff, that weirdo Jeff.
Yep.
Yeah, fake Indian Jeff.
Yes, dude. Yeah. Well, he had him, in charge of the poker table, so that way Nick could run around and do him.
Right.
I forget what he was doing, right? But he had a pencil, taking down what people were down, what people were up.
Yeah.
The list. And bro, Nick grabbed the pencil and stabbed him right in the shoulder, hard as hell.
Yeah.
And then, dude, when Jeff was freaking out, and he literally, like, it was like a movie, dude. Nick looks at him and he's like, "Don't take it out." Dude, I'm like, because, like, Nick never got that way with us.
No, he was a nice guy, man, laughing and joking all the time. Flick the switch, though, he's somebody else.
Oh, my God, dude. How about the shower incident?
With Nick?
Yeah. With the razor, and
he stabbed somebody with a mirror or something, right? He broke the mirror and was
dude, all over dude getting in his shower. The dude got in his shower when he was coming ready to go in. And for those of you that never did prison time, it's not like we have our name tag or something on individual showers. It's just when you are a certain somebody and you have power inside a prison, you know, you claim certain things, and everyone knows that, you know, that's what you claim. That's, you know, when your phone, you know, your shower, Smitty's case in the yard, that's your bench. Nobody ever better sit on that shit. Like, you know, we claim things. They're not really ours, but, you
You
know,
don't have nothing. You know what I mean? If you
yeah.
want something,
So when I first got there, now I can tell you this, you
yeah,
know, because I in there, you know, you can't show weakness,
right.
you can't show emotion, anything like that, and you know everyone thought like, dude, Cuzzo's nuts, Cuzzo's crazy, Cuzzo don't care about nothing, and you know, yeah, to an extent,
Right.
but like what you and everyone else didn't know, like, dude, my first year, I was fucking scared a lot, man.
Sure. I mean, we all were. You know, I mean, we tucked that down in, and we just do what we got to do. You know, and you did it. You did it okay. You did. You know what I mean? You were a man. You stood on your own 2 feet. You know what I mean? But I get it. You know what I mean? Like, man, it's rough, man. You're stuck in there, especially being young. You're away from home, away from your family, and you don't know
Yeah,
that every day something could happen. You know what I mean? I mean, prison's a violent world, man. And people just can go like with Nick, man. Like you could run into somebody like him and come across him. You don't know that you're making him mad, and you do
yeah,
that, and he wants to kill you now. You know what I mean?
yeah. And that's another thing, man. Like, I'm 100% honest on my platform.
Right.
I don't want to do prison content where I just am acting, because that's what it is. Like, everyone has fear and
Sure.
emotions and
We
stuff,
all
but
do. Yeah.
I want my content and my platform to be real.
Right.
And if I was scared in a situation, you know, I let it be known. If I was, you know, hurting,
Yeah.
like, you know, I say it. And why I wanted you to be the first one on here, you're one of the realest dudes, you know, I met in prison. Like,
I appreciate that.
I did meet a handful of real ones,
Yeah.
and you were definitely one of them.
Appreciate that. I mean,
Uh,
it was like this to me, right? When I went in there, I seen that every flaw and your every weakness, right? It's everybody sees it or they're looking for it, right? So when you're trying to be someone you're not, right?
yeah,
You're gonna be exposed. You're gonna be exposed, and then you're exposed for a fraud, right? And you just be you. You know what I mean? How you are. You know what I mean? Sometimes you gotta be a part of you might not want to be, but it's in there. You know what I mean? Like, if you have to do something, whatever, you might not like doing
yeah,
those things, you know what I mean? But you do it because you want to survive. But like,
yes,
you know what I mean? But I just figured, listen, man, I'd be me. I ain't gonna, I'm not acting nothing. Then I ain't never gonna be exposed for something that I'm not.
exactly. And that's the one thing that I saw as coming in young.
Yeah.
You know, like you said, everyone's watching everyone.
Right. And
You
everybody
know,
comes in like they're man, I was a big drug dealer out there. I did this, I did that. You know what I
let me
mean?
get a suit.
Yeah, I robbed a gas station for $85 and got 10 years for it. You know what I mean? And I'd laugh about it. You know what I'm saying? They can be all that. You know what I mean? I'm just like, that's what I did.
Yeah, but like, you know, and like I was saying, dude, the and not just the young ones, but me watching everyone my age coming in,
Yeah,
that put me on point with a lot of things, because I saw all the mistakes
sure. They were
that
making.
these dudes were making, and they
Yeah,
were having a rough time. You know, some of them becoming, you know, bitches.
yeah,
They were
yeah.
they
I've,
became
I've
they
seen it happen
became
time and time
somebody's
again.
bitch.
I've seen it time and time again.
Yeah. And these dudes would come in, they would make up a fake name, like, my name's Maniac.
Yeah, MC Grenade Launcher, Murder X. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Yeah,
my name's Murder two times.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
they make up these names that to them
yeah,
seem, hard, and then they walk around all the time with that mean mug,
yeah, yeah.
and then, like what they don't understand, that's not going to save you or protect you.
No.
There are people in prison that fear no one and nothing and are extremely violent.
Yes.
And then you have the ones that are doing life that have nothing to lose.
Right. And some people who just don't care.
Yep. Or the ones that wake up and are just having a bad day
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
want to take it out on somebody. But I've seen these dudes try to create a fake character,
Yeah.
and every time, as soon as they get tested by one of them dudes I just mentioned,
Yeah.
all of a sudden their voice changes,
Yeah.
the way they talk changes,
Yeah.
their mean mug disappears and turns into fear.
Yeah.
When, me personally, what I noticed is a lot of these dudes, they wouldn't have had such a rough time if they weren't pretending to be some super gangster that they weren't.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, turn that off, dude. I mean, like, you hard 24 hours a day, all day long. You know what I mean? We eat bullets for breakfast. You know what I mean? Like, come on with it.
Yeah,
You know?
facts.
Yeah.
And
It's all, and all that stuff it all gets exposed.
always,
Always. Always.
like, and I feel for all these youngins that they're getting major time in prison
Yeah.
because these youngins ain't fighting no more.
No, they don't know how to, man. It goes straight to the weapons.
They're shooting, and
Yeah.
I see all of them. They're all, popping pills, sipping lean.
Yeah.
So they're not working out. They're not, doing any type of physical shit. They're not fighting on the daily, so they don't know how to fight. And
Right.
they're landing in prison with serious time.
Yeah.
And you're
Not
facing
prepared.
dudes that they don't need a gun.
No. No. Yeah.
And it's sad. These kids are doing all this,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then they're becoming someone's bitch. They're
Right.
they're they're getting ran down on by all the booty bandits. Like,
Yeah, I've seen it happen time and again. So have you. You know what I mean? And now, right now, the gang culture is way bigger in Pennsylvania than it ever has been. Right?
yeah,
So I
yep, I
see a lot of
noticed that too
young
when I
dudes.
came home.
They come in and they're clicking up, right? And they got no business doing that. You know what I mean? They got no, they know it in their heart. You know what I mean? They should not do this because they're not built for it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So they want to be a gangster until it's time to do some gangster shit. And you join a gang, you're gonna have to do some gangster shit. You know what I mean? It's a fact.
Do
So
you think? Do you? I think this, but I want your opinion.
yeah,
Do you think these youngins, they think, like, because there's a lot of them that lie and say they're in a gang, and
yeah,
they're not, they never
that's
were.
that's a bad thing to say.
Yeah, because you're gonna get G checked, it's gonna get exposed. But I see all these youngins just thriving and wanting to say that they're in a gang, and I think that they feel they're gonna be protected and never have to worry about anything.
Huh.
When, being honest, it's the opposite.
Yeah, I mean, you got a protection with your people, right? But you have to earn that, and they're not gonna just give it to you. You know what I mean? Like you got to put in work, and that's a fact. Like I never joined a gang, but I was in a car. Like you were part of my car, and like
Yep.
what I mean. Like I would have rode out for you guys. You know what I mean? And you guys did that for me. But that
Let's
was a
explain.
loyalty thing.
Let's explain that real quick for the
Right.
viewers that never been to prison and stuff.
Yeah.
So you have gangs, right?
Right.
And then you have what's called cars.
Right.
Okay. And in the feds, same thing.
Right.
What car are you in?
Yes.
But okay, so I was a Crip,
Right.
my whole prison sentence,
Right.
and you were neutron. You were lone wolf.
Right.
You know, you did you, but like he said, we were in the same car.
Right.
Now, when you're in that yard, right?
Yeah.
You're not always gonna be just with your gang.
Right.
You know, when you first go out the yard, every gang has their own, section
You get your
in the
meeting time,
yard.
your church day and all that. Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Yep, and we meet up in the beginning. You know, we all piece each other up. We talk about is there anything going on that we need to know about? Is there any beefs? We talk about different hustles we got going on, who owes what, all that shit. And then, boom, meeting's adjourned.
Yeah.
And we all go our separate ways in the yard.
Right.
And everyone's a part of their own little car. And me and Smitty and another one that I talked about and did an episode on, Sean, Angry Sean, who got in the motorcycle accident and got serious brain injury. He was in our car.
Yeah. Yeah, you could be people in your car could be of different gangs. You know what I mean? We was doing this, he's over here, he's over there. But that's just their separate thing. But this is us, our cars, what we know, we ride together all the time.
Yep.
Yeah.
And we get money together, we
eat together, get high together, Yeah.
Yep. And that's another thing, a lot of people think, oh, I'll get clean when I go to prison. I see the opposite in there. I see dudes coming in that never once, got high, and all of a sudden they're strung out.
I didn't come into prison, the first time I went with the heroin habit. You know what I mean? I came out with one.
Dude, do you remember Bones when he made that homemade needle to shoot his dope up with?
Yeah.
Dude, that was the end of a basketball pump.
Yeah.
That he got from the gym. And he hooked up a pen tube or?
Yeah. The inside of a pen, and uses for the plunger.
Dude, I could not believe he was doing that, dude.
Yeah.
And then, dude, he burnt dude, Bones was so wild. He burnt everyone. Like, dudes would give him a pack to sell.
Goodbye, pack.
Dude, he'd be right out in the yard, totally fried, nodding out. And dude's like, yo, did you get rid of any of that? Like, yeah, I'm just waiting on the money.
They would tell nah, dude, that stuff was garbage, man. I flushed it down the toilet.
Dude, no, I remember that. I remember who that was in that whole situation.
Yeah. He said it's garbage. He's pickled. You know what I mean? Then you had some. You're in your cell. And you're done. He's like, that stuff wasn't garbage.
Dude, in my head, right? I thought that I would be clean my whole bid. I honestly thought that because in the county,
nothing really.
And when stuff did come through, I wasn't doing it like that. Like, I was getting, fucked up, but I wasn't, chasing.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, man, being honest, I was smoking weed in there. I was doing heroin in there. Shit, we had coke.
Yeah.
I was doing coke, dude. Didn't you try to cook crack in the Stinger? Was that you?
I did. I tried to make some. Yeah. Yep. It didn't work all that well.
I remember that.
Yeah. It was in a light bulb, a little for the lamp.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I never asked you how you did that.
I tried making that, but
or tried to do it.
What was happening? The dude got me some baking soda, right? But it had been inside of the refrigerator in the kitchen. You know what I mean? So it wasn't fresh. so
Yeah.
they wouldn't activate it and all that, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I smoked crack one time in prison, and that's a horrible thing to do. Like, you know what I mean? Don't ever do that. I tell people don't ever smoke crack in prison, because I took this big hit of it, right? And then, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like, paranoia. What's up? Oh, dude, I was so paranoid. It was like, then I'm thinking, like, I mean, I paid to feel like this. Like, I mean, this cost me $50. You know
I
what
just paid to feel like this.
I mean? Yeah, so yeah, that's a horrible idea. Don't ever
Dude,
do that.
that's another thing, man. Like in prison, we call it a commercial break,
Yeah,
right? And
yeah,
you want a break from prison so bad.
yeah. And that's what drugs give you. You know what I mean? It's your escape from that.
Yep. And man, I can't tell you how many times that I got high in my cell, and
Yeah,
it made me more depressed and thinking about everything. And
yeah. You really do start thinking that. Yeah. You get really sad.
yeah, like when you're out at yard, with everybody, everyone's lifting each other's spirits up, and
Yeah. When you
we're
get by yourself, though,
laughing.
man, yeah, it's you then you're really with yourself.
Yeah, and then when you're in that cell, you're just like, man, this is my life.
Yeah, I remember getting high and stuff, and then being there myself alone, with away from the friends and stuff, and thinking like, man, I'm doing this, and this is what put me here. You know what I mean? And I'm going right back to it. You know what I mean? Like, don't my kids deserve something better? Doesn't my family deserve something better?
Yeah,
Can I do better? You know what I mean? And then it would just exasperate it more. You want to get high more because don't want to feel that.
yep.
Yeah,
One thing that I noticed, towards the end of my time at that prison,
yeah,
before I went to the hole for that 18 months, um, you were going to church.
yeah. Started going
And
to got baptized. I got confirmed and everything. Yeah.
yeah, and what did you get where you ordained? You got ordained, right? So you could.
I got ordained the first time I was in prison, right?
Okay.
Uh, so dude who was my cellie, he had become ordained, right? And anyone who's ordained can ordain someone else, right? So what I mean, I said I could be ordained, and he said yeah. So he did it, then he submitted the paperwork, and then bam, there it was. You know what I mean? But it wasn't like something I worked for. I really, you know what I mean? I didn't have to take
Yeah.
classes to do something for it, but like I am an ordained minister. Yeah. And so, I've done a marriage. I married my stepson, and then
Okay.
uh, I was going to marry my buddy a couple weeks ago, but I ended up, my legs messed up and my motorcycle got wasn't running right. I was on the way to Pittsburgh to do it, and that's why I couldn't go. But I'm doing a marriage on Sunday. A good friend of mine, him and his girl, he just had a pacemaker put in. He's my age. I mean, and so his wife or his girlfriend, she wanted to get married on Sunday at 10 p.m. It's like these numbers that came to her about something. I don't know, they're very important to her anyway, the dates
Yeah.
and time. So Sunday night, 10 p.m., I was supposed to marry him here in Erie, right on the lake, right? And but he got an infection in his PICC line, so he's in Allegheny General. So I have to go
Damn.
there. I'm going to go to the hospital Sunday night and marry him there in the hospital.
Dude, that's awesome, bro. That's
Yeah,
what's up, dude.
he's a good dude, man. Like, he didn't deserve this to happen to him. You know what I mean? And because he had changed his life
Well,
around.
prayers, bro. Prayers to him and everyone watching this. If you can,
Yeah, his
say a
name's
prayer.
Moby. Yeah, his name's Moby. Brian DeRoss is his real name. He goes by Moby. Yeah, say some prayers for him, and he deserves them. He's a real good dude. Changed his life around. You know what I mean? Hope to die dope fiend. Got a job. You know what I mean? Get his life together.
That's what's up, man.
Yeah.
Yo, one thing that I wanted to talk to you about, and I want to give everyone a real prison lesson. For those of you that never been and are in the streets, committing crimes, hustling, gang banging, all you youngins, pay attention to this.
Prison's
You
coming.
know,
That's part of it. You know what I mean? You live that
I don't.
life, you can accept that.
I don't wish prison on anyone, but that's another thing I want to do on my platform is, on my last channel, I was really known for my shorts, prison tips. And, I did prison tip 1 all the way through 100. I did
Yeah.
100 tips and, you know, I think like 5 of them got over 1 million views.
Wow, nice. I was gonna write a book about that.
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna start doing it again. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
doing the prison tips again. But this is something that happened that, I feel so much guilt for still to this day. But I was young and I didn't understand prison the way, I did later after I had some time in. But do you remember shit, I can't remember his name. The dude that started the fake gang to get all the suburban kids that came into prison.
Oh, yeah. Lucas.
Lucas.
Yeah.
Okay. You know more about his backstory and everything a little more than I do because you had more time in there. Can you
Yeah.
explain to everybody who Lucas is and like, what his MOs were,
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
you know?
I didn't know him too well, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah,
seen
you didn't
him.
fuck with him, but like,
Right, no, but I knew who he was, you know what I mean? And I seen him talking to you, right? And I remember like I gotta put this kid down with what this dude's about, you know what I mean? So, I seen you up there. This I don't think I even really talked to you much at this point. But I said, hey bro, I said, listen, man, I see that dude talking to you in New York. I knew you from Beaver County, right? I
we
said,
met, yeah, we
yeah,
met on that bench, but when we talked,
right.
we didn't know more after that until this situation.
Yes, this is where we became friends at this point here. Yes. I
Yeah,
was like,
how
listen, I
I
said,
handled it, like,
yeah, you
dude,
handled
that
it
was all
perfect.
thanks to you, man.
The way you handled it was perfect. I said, and I know you really don't know me too well. I said, but listen, that dude you're hanging out with ain't the person you want to be around, dude. I said, that dude's a booty bandit and he ain't no good. You know what I mean? I said, you don't believe me? I said, listen, that dude over there is from the same county. You see him down there in the tier, you ask him, you know what I mean? Then he's going to tell you the same thing. So, you know what I mean? You say, hey, you know what, dude? He said, yeah, same thing I said. Then you was
Yep,
like,
he's
okay,
like,
cool.
Cuzzo, that dude is a booty bandit, bro.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
vicious booty bandit.
And you wouldn't, then you mess with him no more. You cut him straight off. And he's like, hey, man, why don't you talk to me no more? He's like, you said, because you're a homo. You know what I mean? And like, you're a booty bandit. He's like, who said that? You're like, everybody said that.
So I'm gonna tell you guys the whole background story and what all happened with this because there's a lot to it. So this dude, right? He was talking to another Crip that part of my gang, and they both came up with an idea. This Crip was Dollar, right? And Dollar and Lucas came up with a plan to create a fake gang. And they were going to specifically recruit young white dudes and other dudes that were just green, that, were from suburbs and weren't from the hood and didn't know any better. So they came to me. Dollar, my Crip homie, he introduced me to Lucas and he was like, yo, we got a way to make a lot of money and they're just gonna give it to us. So I'm like, all right, yeah, what's the plan? So they said we are creating a fake gang, right? We're gonna give it a name. We're gonna create a whole entire, law book, like, every gang that you got your do's and don'ts, it's our Bible pretty much. And I hate saying that, not trying to disrespect God. That's just, what it's called. And they did. They created everything, and this shit was so serious that Lucas had a dude that worked in property. And when you first come into this prison, this dude was literally getting their door tag with their prison mugshot, their their name and what they were locked up for, where they were from. Like, it was that vicious that I would get to see a picture of these dudes before they even hit the yard. And what my job of it was, I was the one that would lure these dudes in. Now, being honest, all I thought it was, and this still ain't good, but we're in prison and I was living evil. I was doing evil shit. But the plan was to, extort them. So when they come to yard, they don't know anybody. This is their first time in their yard. They're scared, man. So I would come right up to them. Hey, what's up, bro? You just get here? Yeah, man. Yo, bro. You walk with me, man. I'm gonna put you on point with everything in here, so you don't get hurt, bro. It's dangerous in here. And every time, man, every time these dudes, they spun the fucking track with me. And what I would do is I would tell them all these scary stories, all this, shit that could go down and happen to them. And I'm not lying, but, I'm going in to put fear in them. And as I'm doing it, I'm walking around the yard and I'm pointing at each different gang. And I'm like, you see all them over there? Those are the Latin Kings. Yo, you see all of them over there? Those are the Bloods. You see all of them over there? Those are the Crips. Yo, you see all of them over there? Those are the DMIs. Yo, all of them over there? That's the Muslim car. And, they're seeing like, damn, all these gangs is deep, and that's putting more fear in them. So I tell them, yo, you bang? You in a gang? Which I know they're not. And as soon as they say no, I put the face on like, damn, man, you ain't got nobody in here? No, man. Bro, if you ain't in a gang, you're fucked, bro. But I got you. I know a dude that it's a prison gang. It's a homegrown prison gang, and it's official, bro. And I could get you in. Really? They're all for it. Every time, Smitty.
Yeah.
It never failed. And you know how deep that shit got.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're looking for a place to belong. You know what I mean? A place to fit in, a place to feel safe.
Yup. And it grew. So I'm hitting all these dudes with it, right? And yeah, so when they made the laws, when they made the bylaws, right? Instead of, normal gangs, like we'll say my gang, for instance, when you're a Crip and you're inside prison, when you violate any of the laws, you get a DP, disciplinary punishment. And, it goes from writing a whole entire essay of why you fucked up and why you shouldn't, and all this real shit. Like, they'll tell you 1,000-word essay, bro, on why you violated. Well, what we did was, yo, this gang, you don't get hit, you don't get beat on, you don't get punched on. What you do is you pay. You pay a fine. And we said the fine goes into the kitty. Now, for those of you that don't know what a kitty is, all prison gangs, we put certain money that we hustle and make into a kitty. And that's for any new Crip or whatever gang is doing this. When a new gang member comes to the prison, they're going to need all the essentials. They're going to need shower shoes. They're going to need soap, shampoo, whatever, or the cosmetics, deodorant, some food. So that's what a kitty is. Well, every fine is, you know, a pack of Newports, 3 kites. And then you got to run a certain amount of laps and do a certain amount of push-ups, jumping jacks, all this, and you know this is your DP. And man, the money was coming in.
We were getting fined all the time because I seen all these little young dudes. They're
Yeah,
doing
explain
push-ups.
what you seen. Explain what
Yeah.
you seen in there.
You know, I seen any like all these little kids are coming in, you know what I mean? Fresh faces, you know, they haven't even started to shave yet, you know what I mean? And they got this old black dude, he's working out with them, making them do push-ups and stuff like that, you know what I mean? And like, you know, watching them. You know what I mean? They're helping them when they gotta, you know, they can't get the last pull up.
Oh, can't get you the pull up. Let me grab your waist. Hold on.
Yeah, feeling up on them, you know.
That's not funny, dude. I gotta. I mean, that's what I mean, man. Like that sin is really in us, dude. But yeah, man, it was it.
You know, I mean, like you said, you know, what I mean, you didn't know how deep it was going either with him at that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I thought it was just extortion. I had
Yeah.
no idea he was a booty bandit. And then my
Yeah.
Crip homie is vouching for him, and you know he's helping him run all these dudes. I didn't have to do any of that.
You man, you like, you know, the dude in with your people, he's okay, dude. So you think he's all right? You know what I mean? But, you know, back in the day, you know what I mean, when I was young, going to prison, right? That booty bend stuff was condoned. You know what I mean? Like it was okay. People thought it was okay. You know what I mean? And like those dudes, like, you know what I mean? They're like, no, I'm not gay. You know what I mean? I'm like, well, yeah, you are. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, no matter which way you slice it, you know what I mean? If, you know, you're doing that with another man, you're gay. He's like, no, he's the gay one.
But these booty bandit lifers, they will look you dead in your face after they just scraped something, right?
Yeah, right.
And they will tell you, I'm not gay.
Yeah. So but the guys in my generation, you know what I mean, we weren't so much with that kind of stuff, you know what I mean, and so it's died out a whole lot, you know, since then, you know, what I mean? But like in the 80s, you know, in the you know the early 90s, you know, it was still pretty prevalent. By the mid 90s, it was going away, and you know, now it's almost faded to nothing, which is great. You know, I mean, not to say they're there, but
yeah, the booty mans are still active. It's just nobody respects them,
no,
or
no one respects them. Exactly. Before they
Yep.
were respected guys, you know what I mean, and they're feared men and like that. Now, you know what I mean, people like they just, you know, they don't want to do with them. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
yeah.
and there's regular gay dudes in there. They don't cause no problems. They like it ain't nothing like that. These booty bandits are different. They are sexual predators.
Right, exactly. They're rapists, is what they are. So, you know, and that's about power. You know what I mean? And that's what they, you know, fear, those type of things. You know, there's an evil person. You know what I mean? To do that. You know what I mean? To do, you know what I mean? And so, you know.
So to get to, you know, what happened. So it's growing. And all I'm seeing is what I was told. You know, these dudes are running laps. These dudes are doing push-ups. You know, these dudes are coming up to me and saluting and stuff, like, you know, and I'm getting all this extra money flow. I got a whole other hustle coming in, steady money. And yeah, so the one day, you know, Smitty, he noticed that me and dude were, you know, talking on the regular, walking the track. And Smitty, no one knew what was going on. Like we kept this to ourselves, what we were doing. To everyone else, they thought this was an official gang, like it was taken serious and all that.
The wrinkled penny gang.
Dude, I remember everyone was calling it that. He named it E3. E3. And these dudes would literally tag their prison stuff
I
and
see
even
that. Yeah, I seen it with
get
the tattoos.
tattoos.
Yeah, I seen it.
So they started making them get inked up, showing that they were
Branded.
E3, which stood for
I don't know what it's for.
eminent three or something. Whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, so Smitty pulls me to the side and Smitty don't beat around the bush. He's just like, yo, Holmes, you know that dude's a booty bandit, right? And immediately I'm like, what? Like, yeah, man, he's a booty bandit,
Yeah,
and
and you
like,
want, I can tell by your reaction then that you honestly did not know. You did not know, and I figured as much that you didn't know.
yeah, I mean, you know me, I ain't with none of that. Like
Exactly. You know what I
the
mean? So I figured,
extortion, robbing, running down, but setting anybody up to get scraped
yeah,
or sneaking into somebody's cell and stealing when they're not around. I wasn't with none of that.
right. And the big thing was, you know, what I mean, like, see, I didn't know you that well then either, and
Hmm.
I didn't know you were a Crip either, and any of that. I just, thought he might have plans on you. You know what I mean? So
Yes,
I didn't want that to happen. You know what I'm
I
saying?
I felt that.
Yeah,
I just didn't know. You know what I mean? I didn't
yeah,
know all what you knew or
right. And now, I'll let you know, like, I mean, we got this, dude. If that be the case. You know what I mean?
yeah, and here's why. And I'm keeping it 100 right now. I was small. I was light. I was only what 130 pounds, I think.
Yeah, you were this little fella. Yeah,
Uh, just started getting my sleeves, and we'll save that for another story. But dude, he could have killed me with his bare hands if he wanted to. This dude was a machine, but I played with bangers. I will stab you.
and you were no coward.
Yeah, like I don't like saying that about myself, but
Right.
yeah, dude, I was burnt. I was ready for it. Like I told myself when I first went into prison, I will never let anyone violate me.
I told myself the same thing.
I
I
will
wanted to learn
die.
it Western by myself. I walked it alone. I kept doing it. I said, I came in here a man. I'm going to walk out of here one. You know what I mean? I'm standing on my own 2 feet, and I'm going to do it right now.
And bro, when you told me that, dude, my stomach flipped. I got fucking hot, dude. Like I was so angry and upset because, and I know that sounds crazy because I'm perfectly fine with extorting them and
But
them
it's a
running
difference, though.
around,
I
but
mean, like, we got, even in there, we have morals. You know what I mean? Our morals are a little bit better now than they were, but we still had to have some. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Extorting someone is okay in there at that point. You know what I mean? Stealing, whatever is okay. But you know what I mean? You draw the line in some things. You know what I mean?
yeah,
There's got to be some type of line. You got to have a code no matter where you are. You know
yeah,
what I mean? You're living wrong, but you still have to have some type of code. You know what
yep.
I mean? And you had one, and then it crossed that line.
And immediately, right? Well, actually, no, it wasn't right immediately because you told me that, and then you were like, I got somebody from I got somebody from his way that knows, like,
Yes.
and his case,
Yeah.
why he was in there.
Right.
And he I gotta use certain words on here.
Yeah.
Um he scraped uh a female,
I think it was a
right?
male. I think it was a male.
Oh, okay. He
14-year-old
scraped.
boy on a bus or something.
Yes, okay. And vicious,
Yeah.
you know? And I'm finding all this out. And, one thing about me, I, I think about every single move I'm going to make. I know a lot of people thought I was just shot out and just, you know,
From the hip.
but, being honest now, bro, I really thought about everything I did. Like, I know it seemed like everything was just, but I did think. And when we went to the block, when we went back to our block, and I talked to dude, and I found out even more messed up shit. And it was, I don't know if I could say this on here, but I'm gonna, try. Uh, the punishments that he was doing to these dudes on the block, he would make all of them um ejaculate. I don't know if you could say that, but ejaculate into these cups, and he would make them drink other people's, and then he was, drinking them, and on top of it, he was scraping them. And I find all this out. And when we went to yard, uh, nobody knows this, but I had a weapon. And Kike, you remember Kike?
Dude, man. Yeah.
Yep, the leader of the Latin Kings.
Yeah.
He taught me how to make a banger out of a garbage bag. And you get a toothbrush and you get the black garbage bag and you melt it with the lighter
Yeah.
and you heat it and cool it. You got to have a cold rag and you heat it, cool it, cool it.
Harder. Yeah.
And no bullshit, this shit will go through a metal locker. And then it makes it through the metal detectors.
Yeah. Any metal detector can't pick up plastic.
And that's something I know nobody knew, and that's why I was so confident whenever I said all that to him, because like I said, I knew this dude could kill me with his bare hands.
Yeah, I didn't know you had no banger on you, and I was like, but I was like, yeah, I was like pretty impressed. I mean, that you went and stepped the dude like that and just ended it. You know what I mean? And listen, he didn't know you had no banger. You know what I mean? And
Nobody knew.
He didn't do nothing.
Yep, nobody knew but Kike, and
Yeah,
Kike was the one that gave me the advice.
yeah.
He's like, don't let anyone know you have it.
Oh yeah, he's good. That's good advice.
Yeah, he's like, don't let anyone know you have it. And now you can say whatever you want, how you want, and you're not going to have any fear in you. And I'm like, anytime you guys, I got it. I was cool with every, leader in the prison.
They were all on our block. All the leaders of the gangs were all on that block.
Yep, and that was the block that they sent me to. My first prison,
Yeah,
block, and they sent me to the worst block in the prison.
The best one. You know what I mean?
It was the best one. It was, that's what the reputation was. Oh exactly, no, you don't want to go to I block.
Right. But the thing is, with those type of people, right? They walk with respect. They treat us with respect because and so people pretty much respected each other there because everybody was capable of some pretty severe violence. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So people respected each other.
Yep. So yeah, man. So in front of everybody in the yard, I made sure everybody, heard, was around, and yo, Lucas, let me holler at you, bro. And I started off with a smile, like everything, was cool. And I wanted it to be like that, so that way he didn't try to be like, oh no, let's walk off and talk.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by how I think. So I made it seem like I gotta lower my voice. My stepdaughter's about to go to sleep, but yeah, I'm always a loud talker. But I'm like, yo, let me holler at you, bro. What's up? Yo, you're a fucking booty bandit. And he's, what? Bro, you're a fucking booty bandit. Bro, you know, you're gay, bro, and you're scraping these dudes. And at first, he he flexed up, and he said it was only the one time he came, but he was like, who the fuck do you think you're talking to? And when I didn't hesitate, I showed no fear. I flexed up too, and that's when I said to homo.
Yeah.
That's why I was like, I'm talking to you, homo. And no disrespect to anybody. I don't like disrespecting anyone in the world. I got love for everybody, but at this point in my life, this is how I was. I hated everyone that wasn't in my circle. And dude, he bitched up, and what I noticed, it wasn't just because of me that he bitched up and bowed down. He saw all of you right there. And I saw all your faces. And these are dudes from multiple different gangs. And then dudes from different cars that, all had love for me, man. And he's looking around and he's seen that. And yeah, man, he walked off, and me and him never spoke again. He never stopped doing what he was doing either.
No. I got the Albion. He was up there doing the same thing. Same thing. Same MO, same everything.
Wait, so when he got kicked out of Monomoy,
Yeah.
he went to Albion, and
He ended up at Albion sometime. I don't know when, but I got set there in 2014, right? And
2000 what? 14?
2014, and lo and behold, there he is. You know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, this guy's up here. You know what I mean? Then I'm looking around, and I'm seeing dudes with E3 tattooed on their neck. They're deep, a whole bunch of them. I'm like,
They were deep.
yeah, I'm like, this is still going on. You know what I mean? Like, this is, I'm like, and they're taking it serious. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh, this ain't gonna end good. And the same. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They got exposed. Who he is, what he does. You know what I mean?
Well, that right there, again, for anyone watching this that never been to prison before, and you're out there committing crimes, which it only leads to jail or death, prison or death. He went from one prison, right? Landed in another prison, and was able to repeat the same exact thing.
Yep.
With no problem. Why? Because everyone that comes to prison that has never experienced it before or knows how to carry themselves, knows how to bid, they are scared and they are clueless of everything.
Yeah.
That's one thing with and again, not disrespecting anybody, but you have certain prison channels, right? That these dudes, they, and it's not too many, but I hate saying that this person's name, but it's the best example, and that's 1090 Jake. Uh, he has no clue really what he's talking about, because everything that he spits out was from a bird's eye view. And by that, I mean, you can be in prison, right? You could be in prison, you could do some time in there, and you still, once you leave, you had no idea what was really going on in there.
That's the truth.
If you're not in the mix and in the know, like I would run into certain dudes.
Everything.
Yep. I would run into certain dudes, I was always hustling in there. And when I'm going to dudes like, hey, you get high? Yo, bro, they would be shocked and be like, you have drugs?
Yeah.
And these dudes, like, that's a good example. Like,
Yeah.
you're not in the know, you're not in the know. But these dudes, they want everything to seem scary and crazy, which, yeah, it's there, but it's just a good storyteller. But when you don't really know what's going on and you're always talking like you have no fear and all this, you confuse a lot of people. And some of these dudes that hear these stories, they really believe it. But those who really done prison time and really know, we all knew that, he was lying about it, everything he was saying. But yeah, man, prison is not a good place to be. It's not a badge of honor.
No.
It's not anything to be proud of. And I promise you, every single one of us, no matter how gangster we were, no matter how much of a savage we, acted, we hated our lives. And we all missed the same thing. We missed love.
Yeah. True.
Being with the person you love and having somebody, just the simple things like laying in bed with your girl.
Yeah.
It's hard sleeping alone for over a decade.
Yeah. Being able to say how, what you're really feeling, you know what I mean? And, if to express your pain, those types of things, you don't have that.
Nope, we couldn't even do that with each other.
No. I mean,
Being honest, we were close as fuck.
People you trusted a little bit, but you know what I mean? You'd have to really, really get to trust someone a lot to be able to do that.
Yep. Yo, I got a good story.
Okay.
That involves you. Do you remember when the FBI came to our prison and were investigating multiple homicides with your cellie, Paul?
Yeah. I remember.
What was it? What was his real name? Because Paul wasn't his real name.
It was Aaron.
Aaron?
Yeah, but he went by Paul because he didn't want him. Paul was his middle name.
Aaron what was his last? What was his real Aaron,
Ross?
Aaron Ross.
Yeah. See, now he was the Canoe Creek Killer.
Creek Killer.
Yeah, back in Altoona, where he's from.
Okay.
Right? He murdered and killed this girl there. He wasn't putting that out there. He
was a serial killer.
He was in the IRA. He was all this. He was, you know what I mean. He was a hitman with the IRA.
This dude was a pathological liar.
Great artist. I mean, he's a phenomenal. I've never seen a better artist. But pathological liar. Yeah.
And this serial killer, he did not want any of us to know, what he really was.
Yeah.
And his murders were very vicious.
Brutal.
Very brutal and torture.
Evil things.
Evil things that, can't even talk about on here, but, Smitty just said Smitty just said his real name. Aaron Ross the Canoe Creek Killer, so you guys can look his stuff up. But what happened with that, bro?
Yeah, they call me up there and they're like, "Hey, we're gonna talk about your celly." You know what I mean? He had just gotten back into court on a technicality, whatever, get his case back in. Did he ever talk to you about his case? It's like, nope, never talked to me about his case. You know what I mean? They're like, okay, all right, you get anything else? I'm like, no, that's it. You know what I mean? So I go back to the block and he's like, what they say, what they say. I said, oh man, I said they want to know about these girls you killed in Indiana County, Somerset County, and I kept naming all these other places. I said he talks about a couple different girls, you know what I mean? And he's like, stop it, don't say that. You know what I mean? He's all worked up.
Bro, I remember him freaking out, and that's when everyone found out what he really was and who he really was. Dude, I remember
He deserved that.
he was freak. Yeah, he did deserve that, man. He was a piece of shit. And dude, that was good, man. You got in his head, and he was tweaking.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, there was a bunch of unsolved murders that they knew he committed. They just didn't have enough evidence to pin it on him.
Right. Yeah.
But
He got his case in there, you know what I mean? But that was just the one, but he has another one for something else. He had a life sentence, plus he had another case that he had 150 to 300 years on. So,
yeah,
you know what I mean? He's never going to get out of prison, ever.
yeah, 300 years.
Yeah.
You'll get parole in 300 years.
For sure. Yeah. If you live that long, they'll let you go.
Mm-hmm. Yo, we had another high profile, wild killer, and I got cool with him. Freeman.
Dave Free. He was my cellie at one point. When I came back I got paroled. Then I caught another case and I had to come back. So 2004, he was my cellie for a little bit. Yeah, Dave. Dave is a real quiet dude. Ended up being a smart guy. You know,
Very smart. Wasn't he tutoring colleges through
right.
Bert
He had
or Skype, whatever?
wasn't doing anything at first. You know what I mean? Like when I first met him back in 2000, you know what I mean? He would just be in a cell. He would play racquetball, work out a little bit, but he was resigned to being in prison. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he didn't talk to anyone.
Programs, nothing. Get away from me. I'm not going to school. Get away from me. So, but then he found out he might be able to go home. He took his GED, and they find out he's a genius.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He was just a young, troubled kid, Dave was. You know what I mean? And he's a very shy kid, you know what I mean? Kind of awkward. So, you know what I mean? His older brother is gassing him up to do what he did. He killed his mother or his father, one of the, the family members. And,
I watched the documentary on him.
Yeah.
When I came home, he killed the whole family. They killed the whole family.
Yeah, the little brother too. Mom, dad, little brother. Yeah.
Yep, the mom, the dad, the little brother, and
bad situation.
One of the documentaries said they killed their family dog too, and it said that they were on acid.
Yeah.
And they wanted to join some kind of Nazi group or something.
Yeah, I know that they were some type of neo-Nazis.
Yeah.
But I seen that he got his sentence commuted. He doesn't have life sentence anymore.
Yeah, because he was a juvenile.
He was only 15 years old.
Yep, and they changed the law in PA. I think it was 2017 or 18.
Yeah, 2012 they started to look at it, doing that, right? And then they ended up doing it. 2017 they started letting guys out.
And it became cruel and unusual punishment.
Right, because they did at 15 years old, you know what I mean? Child's brain is not fully developed. You know what I mean? It is what their argument was. And it's not. You know what I mean? Like with Dave, like I think if they would, let him out now, You know what I mean? He's not under the influence of his brother no longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's looking up to his older brother. You know what I mean? And they're following this crazy Nazi ideology. You know what I mean? And so he's a mixed up kid who's following this violent ideology, and he ends up, including a violent act. Now,
Yeah.
he hasn't done that. He's done some things to improve himself. You know what I mean? I don't think he'll do anything again. You know what I mean? For real, he was just a kid, a follower. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a horrible thing what he did. You know what I mean? I could never imagine doing something like that.
Yeah.
However, you know what I mean? I was not him. You know, man, I didn't live that life that he lived. You know.
Yeah. And like it didn't say in any of the documentaries, but like I don't know if his family was abusive towards them or
You don't know, right? They could have been, sure.
yeah, but yeah, man, for me, right, coming to that block
Yeah.
so young, and I remember this when I first got to the prison, right? And I'm scared, bro. Like this is my very first home prison. You know, I went through Western and Camp Hill, but like this is where I'm gonna be. And bro, the first thing the property dude said whenever they were like, you're going to IA. Everyone else in my group, they're being told like, yeah, you're going to B block.
Good.
You're going to C block. You're going to D block. Oh, I got a story after this for D block. You know what I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
But the property dude is like, man, this youngin's going to I block. And the CO's like, yeah, have fun. Dude, I'm already scared. And
What am I
then
getting into?
they kept our block. Our block was all the way in the back in the cut, like you couldn't see it. So
Yeah,
I'm put.
they built those blocks later on. They were the newest ones. Because they wanted to upgrade it to a maximum facility. So to get level 4 prisoners, they had to build 2 level 4 blocks. So you see their design kind of like the hole where you have the feeding tray on the door that they can lock the whole place down and feed you through the door. So they got all the the worst people they could find, they thought, in there, and put them on that block, that and J block, and then, and then so it's supposed to be a step down, like from the RHU and all that. You know what I mean? So,
and yeah, I don't know if they put me on that block because I had a homicide or because of all the trouble I was getting into in the county.
pretty bit of both.
But yeah, they put me on the very worst block. And like, Smitty said, it's all level 4 maximum security. Most of the dudes on the block were doing life. But yeah, dude, I'm pushing the cart and I'm freaking out, dude. I'm scared. And I did not want to ever have to ask anyone anything.
Yeah, right.
But I couldn't find the block, dude. I'm looking around the whole prison and I'm like,
it's behind everything. You can't see it.
I'm like, where's I block? Like the one bus stop where the CO's at, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, go CO. And yeah, dude, what? Where's I block? I can't find I block. And he says to me, you're going to I block. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to IA. And the CO goes, yeah, I'll walk you there. You're gonna have a good time on that block. Now I'm more scared, dude. I'm almost shitting my pants. I'm like, what am I walking into? And he walked me all the way down. And when we got right to the front, he's like, you're going on the left side. Be safe. and walks off. And dude, I don't know if you'll remember this, but you in Cuba were the first, because remember my first cellie was with Fink.
We still always wait for the new guys to come in, and we would start eyeballing them and stuff. And it,
Dude, y'all scared me to death, bro. And I don't got no weapon. I just came there, and y'all are big as shit. Just like, and you guys were mugging the shit out of me. You guys were looking at me like you were gonna rip my head off.
we're for real. We're like turning, we're smiling and laughing because we're just having some fun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'm pushing my in Cuba, dude.
He's
Bro,
huge. Yeah.
bro, he's huge.
Yeah.
One of the strongest dudes I ever met, ever seen. Like, what the strongest dudes in prison are bench pressing, he's grabbing that and skull crushing,
Yeah. Yeah.
like doing push ups and dips on his knuckles. Like, dude, you punch him, it feels like you just hit a brick wall. All the COs are scared to death of Cuba. Like, whatever he said, like, he literally will be locked down. Everyone locked down. He'll hit his button. Yo, CO. Yo, player.
Yeah.
Yo, pop my cell. And they pop it. And he's just walking around, going to different people's cells. Like, yo, what's up, player? You got my money?
Yeah. I give you those 2 tunas. You got me 3 of them.
Yeah. So when I walk in, and this is my first experience, my first prison experience, I walk on the block and I see Smitty and I see Cuba like this, just standing up against the wall, mean mugging. And I have to walk past them to get to the cell I'm in.
Oh
And
yeah, you
then,
stood right there where the garbage cans are. You were in a corner with Fake right there in the back. Yeah.
yes, you guys were up against the glass. And bro, once I passed y'all, I'm like they didn't do nothing to me. But okay, so let's fast forward, and I'm gonna talk about the game. It's called the knockout game.
Oh, jeez. They get
Now,
some crazy stuff, man.
dude, so I and J block are all the way in the back. Those are the maximum security
Yeah,
blocks.
level 4
Okay.
block.
And that is where me and Smitty lived. D block, right? D block is where they housed all the PDF files, all the tree jumpers,
Yeah.
the yeah, you guys know PDF files, right?
Yeah. They were making the pedos pray.
They would house all of them on D block.
Yeah. Everybody
And
knows. You live on that block, they know what you are.
yep, you like kids.
Yeah.
You like kids. And the reason the prison did this, right, was, and this is funny, but they did this to keep them safe. They figured if all of them were on one block, they can't get extorted, tortured, all that stuff that they get in prison. Well,
It worked for a while.
everyone knows where they're at. So I and J Block came up with a game called the knockout game. And you explain it, bro, because you were a part of,
Yeah.
creating it.
So yeah, the 2 blocks got together and they said, okay, we're gonna have the game, the knockout game. Whichever block knocks out the most, the pedos on D block. You know what I mean? So we'll catch them going through, and then so yeah, you'd be chow time. Would pass them.
And in the morning, the fog.
And we're going. Yeah, in the morning it's foggy there. You can't see nothing.
Yeah.
So you'd be walking in the morning, you hear 1, and then boom 2. Then the other side 1, 2, and that's them knocking out child molesters as they're going through the jail hall.
And this was a legit game.
Yeah.
Like, dudes were going hard like competing, you know,
Yeah,
like
they'd be mad if they're like if the one started getting ahead on, they'd be like, "Well, we gotta get more tomorrow." You know what I mean? So they would go out there and they'd be boom, but they got 8. You know what I mean? It's one morning.
what I remember, and you got different points for different knockouts. Okay, if you just hit the dude one time and he dropped, that's a certain amount of points. If
Right.
you have to hit the dude more than once and he gets knocked out, like that's the lowest. And then the 10 point, right? And it had to be a very spectacular, knockout. And I will never forget this, dude. The pedo, the pedo that was in the wheelchair, and the dude is pushing him, right? Because
Yeah.
everyone in a wheelchair, they have another prisoner that their job in there, and they get paid like 20 cents an hour or
Yeah.
something like that.
And all it's crazy. Like they come in these all those guys, those pedophiles. They come in, all of a sudden they can't walk no more. You know what I mean? Because of
Yeah,
the
they
wheelchair.
thought that would keep them safe. Like, so dude is in a wheelchair and he's getting pushed to breakfast. And I don't remember who it was. I can't remember who did this, but he runs up and he knocks out the pedo in the wheelchair.
I think it
And
was Chris Brown did that. I believe
yes, the bald dude.
because he was just nuttier than a fruitcake.
I remember him. He did tattoos too, right?
I think so.
He wasn't good at them.
No, no, you don't have to be good.
Yeah, come here. Let me practice on you.
All right.
Dude, so this dude knocks out the dude in the wheelchair and he's like, that's 10 points. That's 10 points. Tell me that ain't 10 points. No, dude, let's end this one because we're gonna be doing this a lot, and we got tons of stories
Oh shit!
that
Yeah.
that happen in there. But I want everyone to know when we laugh and we're joking around. We're when we're talking about this, we're putting ourselves back in that place, in that moment.
Right.
Um, but we both have changed our lives drastically, and we want to spread that, and we want everyone to know prison isn't cool.
It's not. It's not. It did. Like you were saying, like at that moment, man, we had to have some type of gallows humor to, just to be able to deal with it. You know what I mean? The things we laughed and joked about. You know what I mean? Weren't laughing and joking things, but we had to do that to keep our sanity. You know what I mean? You have to make light of your situation. You know what I mean? It's crazy. It's violent. It's all these different things. But you had to find some way to laugh and had to find some way to, laugh about it. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah,
mean, like you said, it wasn't good. It wasn't like, anything like that. And we are living different today, but we had to, you had to do some stuff just to survive your situation, to be able to deal with it.
yeah, yeah,
And like that,
facts.
we don't have to live like that today.
And I owe everything. You know, there's so many people that know me. Uh, they never thought in a million years I'd ever be able to change. A lot of people that follow me followed my old channel, seen my interviews on Lockdown 23 and 1, and a bunch of other platforms I was on. But I was always just trying to prove who I was and prove to everyone, you know, I'm I'm tough. I was a savage in prison. I was doing this and that, and why I still don't understand why I was going so hard to just try and prove that I was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know, when I should be ashamed of how I was for real. But I would never be like this today and doing all the things that I'm doing if it wasn't for God.
Absolutely right.
I'm not a Bible thumper. I'm not, somebody that, you know, goes overboard and tries too hard. I'm just real, man. I have a great relationship with God, and I lean on Him for everything.
And he's gonna take care of you. I mean, that's a fact. Yeah, I'm not like you said. I'm the same way. You know what I mean? I'm not a very religious person. I'm a very spiritual person. You know what I mean? And everything I have, you know what I mean, is because I have a relationship with God. I mean, I pray every morning when I get up. And I pray for the people I care about. I pray for the people who I've hurt. You know what I mean? And I have a pretty good relationship with today. You know what I mean? But the journey that I had to live was all part of this to get to where I'm at now. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And like that was the path that I had to walk. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm not gonna be a big Bible thumper and stuff, but we are the kind of people that Jesus would have hung out with. You know what I mean? Like that, degenerates, you know what I mean? That's who he hung out with. Sinners.
Yeah.
So we're his type of people, you know what I mean? And that's the part I dig, you know what I mean? Like that, I don't have to be someone who's good, you know what I mean? Because I'm not that person. You know what I mean? I can be as who I am and I'm
Yes.
okay anyway. You know what I mean?
When you're confident in yourself
Right.
and you kill your ego,
That's a hard thing to kill.
very hard. You don't care about what anyone thinks other than God. I don't care what anyone says about me. I don't care who trolls me. As long as you don't put hands on me
Yeah.
or try to harm me, I'm always going to be loving and peaceful. And I'm always going to shout God out.
My man.
And I want to give another shout out. There's somebody that's a subscriber that I told I would give a shout out. And Brian Bilbo. Big shout out, bro. Just met you today. And I'd really appreciate all the words you said. He did. I think he said he did 12 years,
Huh?
and he's been out a while. Um, I'm gonna talk to you more, bro, and I'm gonna know your whole story so I can, actually do this right. But man, bro, he sent me a message. He found me on Facebook, and just, dude, it felt good to hear that coming from another ex-convict.
Right.
That sees what I'm doing and respects it.
Yeah.
And I don't want anyone to experience what me and Smitty did. I really hope that at least some of you watching this can hear all these stories that we're talking about and know that's not the life for you. And we're going to always keep it real on this platform. And just like Smitty's platform, shout your platform out so everyone knows, and make sure you guys go and subscribe.
Okay. Yeah, I just started a channel, Degenerate Nation, and more of what it's about is like it's focusing on the guys who have been there already and keeping us out. You know what I mean? Pulling our resources together and doing stuff to help each other. And so like I started a clothing line, Degenerate Streetwear. Now it's all run by felons. You know what I mean? And felon owned, felon operated. So guys who design their stuff in prison can bring it to me and we will put it all. You know what I mean? Their designs, we'll get it made. We'll get it on the store. Their artwork that they sell, or they sell in prison for, for pennies for a pack of cookies. You know what I mean? We could take that, put it on our store, and then hopefully it can support their families. You know what I mean? Because there are some great artists in prison who are selling their artwork for nothing. You know what I mean? These things should be, getting thousands of dollars for these paintings these guys do. You know what I mean? They're amazing things. So we want to be able to create a platform for that they can sell that on there. The guys writing books, you know what I mean? You get your book, like you wrote a book, you know what I mean? Get that, sell that on there. So, but right now we're talking about struggles on the channel that we face. You know what I mean? We're coming out, stuff we had to encounter, you know what I mean? And so the last episode we left off, I was being interviewed by my wife, and so we didn't get quite to all of it. So we're probably gonna have another 2 or 3 parts to that, and yeah, you know what I mean. And we're gonna be bringing guests on like Cuzzo does. I got a guy who lives down the street here. He did 47 years in prison, and was a juvenile lifer. And one day they tell him, "Hey man, you can go ahead and go home now." After 47 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And so he came out and he had no clue, you know what I mean, how to live, you know what I mean? But he started doing it.
Wait, who are you talking about?
His name is Alan.
Okay.
And he was at I think he left from Rockview.
Okay.
And no, he had left from Forest. He was at Rockview, then he went to Forest. And
all right.
So he come here to Erie, where I ended up moving when I got out of prison, and he was working at a community helping with the kids, you know what I mean, talking to them, and he was making a difference. So, this guy did 47 years. The district attorney, the chief of police, and the mayor sought him out and said, "Hey, we want to make a job for you. Do you want it?" He said, "Yeah, well, what does it pay?" They said $17 an hour. He's like, "Yeah, absolutely." Guy's been making 23 cents an hour his whole life.
Yeah.
What I mean? So he works for the Erie County Reentry Program, and he's a real good dude, man. We have become friends, and I'd like to get him on there. He's out there still making a difference, you know what I mean? And we can do that, when you come out here, helping each other. We help each other, man. And then and then we can help, if we pull those resources together, man, it's a whole bunch of stuff we can accomplish,
This is what I'm focused on with this. My old channel, I did live streams all the time and had people all the time, but it was always drama and beefing and, coming at each other.
Yeah.
And, that was the old me.
Yeah.
And that's all I did. So what I want to do with this new platform, I want to bring all of us together. I was beefing a lot with YouTube Streets. I like a man. I came to them and I apologized and told them like I wasn't in my right mind. I was popping pills and drinking all the time, and I'm sorry. And a lot of dudes see that as weak. I see that as a strength.
That's definitely a strength. You know what I mean? That's a big strength to admit when you're wrong. You know what I mean?
But I love their content. I love what they're doing. They really progressed. New Age Plug, like that is what's up, man. What you created and what it is now. Ronnie Blue Eyes. You guys are awesome. But yeah, I want to bring, I'm trying to bring all of the prison platforms together where we all have a place where we can really open up and be real, man. Be real about our prison time. And like I do, if you were scared in a situation, you explain it. If you were hurting real bad, going through this, going through that, or talking about, what gave you PTSD. What were some of the things, violence you went through that, you didn't come out on top? You know, that's another thing. Everyone wants to just talk about the gangster stuff they did, and not when, you know, we all went through shit in there.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think this is, you know, going to be the start of something really good. And with all of us collabing, you know, it gives all the subscribers and viewers a chance to, you know, see other content that they never would see.
Yeah, and it's good to put a little kindness out into the world. You know what I mean? And because the world can sure use it.
Yeah, man. There's too much hate in this world.
Yeah.
And to end it, I gotta say a thank you, because if it wasn't for you guys, I would never have done YouTube, and I still wouldn't be doing it right now. And no matter how much I fucked up and all the dumb shit I did, shout out to Death from Lockdown 23 and 1, and shout out to Jay Williams from Jay Williams Let's Live. You two always believed in me and always told me, you know, I could do this. But the one thing I didn't listen to is you guys kept telling me, just be yourself. Don't let the trolls get to you. Stick to the content. And I didn't. You know, so I want you guys to know now I'm taking your advice. And I appreciate you guys, you know, still talking to me and support me, man. Like, I see you guys, you know, and I love you guys for that. Thank you, Smitty, for coming on. And this is the first ever Convict reunion. Subscribe, comment, and hit that like button.